We're going to try to walk you through real quick how to replace main board on the Radiomaster T16s. So we're going to go ahead, and as you notice, we actually have it in the front part, so we have it in the proper facing position of the box, and we did that so the sticks, the gimbals, don't get damaged or moved around, or we're not putting pressure on them, because the last thing you want to do is break something else while trying to fix an issue. So this radio is booting straight into emergency mode, and we've checked voltages and done all kinds of things to verify that the main board seems to be bad. So due to that, we're going to go ahead and just do a swap on the main board. So we're going to unscrew 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. Make sure you use the appropriate fit of the tip. If you use too small or too big of a tip on these screws, you will strip them. Then the screws we can go ahead and take out. The two that are off to the side, I recommend keeping some sort of little box. Make sure you know what you're doing. Next, we're going to go ahead and take off the rubber side panels to the radio, because this is going to allow us to separate the top and bottom half. Alright, so we've taken the side pieces off, we've taken these 4 screws off. Next, we're going to need a 2.5. We're going to remove these top 2 screws here. Once we get that freed up, that's going to allow us to now separate the upper and lower case. So holding the bottom firmly, make sure it doesn't fall or get knocked over. We're just going to lift the entire piece off. Make sure if you drop the screws, if you flip it over like I just did, we put the screws where they go. Alright, so the main board that we're going to be replacing is this board here. So if you don't know what you're doing, you've never done this before, one of the first things I always love to do in these situations is take a picture, so you know exactly how everything is supposed to go. So we're going to take a picture ourselves just to verify. And from here, what we need to do is we need to start unplugging some plugs before we start really moving anything around. So I'm going to unplug this main plug. Now don't pull it by the wire. You want to grab the edge of the plug itself and lift straight out. If you need to wiggle just a little bit, be really careful and gentle here though. What you don't want to do is to pull by the wire and snap the wire, stretch it, strain it, and you definitely don't want to pull the plugs off the board, even though, we are changing this board. Still just not a great idea to pull the plugs off. So we've got those two. Got this one here. Now we're going to get this main big black one off. Firmly. There we go. And lastly, we've got this bottom, which is the haptic feedback. So there's that. So now we've got the main board. Oh, sorry, I forgot one last thing, which is this ribbon cable. This ribbon cable, you're going to use the flat edge of a screwdriver or something, and you're going to pull up on it. Just straight up from the back forward towards the bottom of the radio, and that's going to lift up this it's a compression fitment. Alright, so from here, looks like everything is unplugged. Yep. We are going to go ahead and unscrew this board. Be very careful, don't slip, don't move off these screws. So we've got 4 screws here. Again, be really careful taking these screws out, especially pulling them out, and so you don't accidentally jam up the component. Same thing when we go to put them in, we're going to be real careful. Alright, so I want to get this screw out. I don't want to accidentally let it flop around. I want to make sure all the stuff is out so we don't cause, again, other problems. Alright. So this board feels free now. Now it's going to be connected down here at the USB a little bit. It's going to be held up by the USB and the UART plugs. So what you're going to want to do is, as you lift up, you're going to want to pull towards the top of the radio to disengage all of that stuff. Now remember, we still have these flat cables. So we have this one here that we already took apart, and it should just kind of come off. But before you pull the board too hard, we need to flip it over, and there's these two bottom connectors here. So again, we're going to be really careful and gentle, and we're going to lift up on each connector, and both of those should slip right off, and now we've got the main board free. Alright, so we have the HP 157 Tx16s MB, and this is going to be our main board. Alright, so our new board, remember we got to put it in the exact same way. So we need to do the lower connectors first. So we're going to take this one here, and it goes just back in the way it was, which, make sure it's in position, and then you should just push that down. And you'll see that there's no black kind of line that's on the end. The entire black portion of the end of the wire is in there and fully secured. Next up, we're going to do the bigger one. Same thing. It gets, oops, we got some other wires in the way. That's part of our problem here. There we go. Alright. We're going to take this one, and again, same thing. It's a little easier to work with being wider. This little bit of a fold. Alright. And get this one nicely seated. Oops. Now this cable is going to be just a little bit more exposed. I didn't seat it properly. There it goes. It's going to have a little line of the black, just a small one, but it should be fully seated in there. Make sure it's fully seated. Alright, next up, while we're still not fully secured, it's going to be easiest to get this top one in, so we need to open it up. And then again, it just gets seated into position, nice and firm and straight across. Make sure it's fully engaged. There we go, and then push down there. Now we just need to make sure all of our wires clear. So get all these end pieces out. Make sure we got 1, 2, 3. There's the other one, the bigger one. There we go. There's no other wires up under there. We need to make sure these wires right here are out of the way and don't get pinched, so we don't damage those. And then we're just going to drop this into its place. Remember, we got to go forward, and then we can come back into seating the UARTs and the USB-C in their slot. And really, once you get the USB-C lined up and the rest, there we go. It should sit right into where it's supposed to go. Let me double check. I can see the holes. Yep. So next up, we're going to take these screws and we're going to put the 4 short screws. So remember which ones came out. We're going to put them back in. These are the shortest ones that you pulled out. And we're going to again be really careful, make sure we actually get them in that hole and we're not moving around and jamming up on stuff. So we got the 4 short screws in. We're going to, after we get these screws in, the next thing you should do is you should, ooh, see, that was not a great move. I didn't hit anything though. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to again verify your SD card and your make sure your SD card is coming in and out, and then also make sure USB-C is able to be connected. Now that we know all that's good, we can go ahead and start reconnecting wires. So the multi-strand color goes here, and this is where, again, refer back to that picture. Alright, we've got that one. We know this one for sure is going to go right here, and it's got to clear the other wire, so you got to make sure you get it out of the way. There we go. Make sure all of these are seated fully. You should be able to feel them kind of click into place. So again, we're going to remove this one. It goes right here. This little 2-plug one goes right here. We've got 2-plug, we've got here, we've got here, we've got here. And lastly, remember we had this haptic feedback, which is the little motor that provides all your little vibration and haptic feedback. You see these wires here are a little bit where they could get pinched. What we want to do is want to make sure they're run a little more underneath things. So we're going to move them kind of down here just to where when we put that case back on, we don't see it bind up. Again, while we're in here, we're just verifying everything is nicely seated. And then what we're going to do next is, where is the back? There it is. So the great thing about the T16 and how it goes together is you have your battery right here. So we can actually put battery power in and power it on with the back open. So we can just verify that everything's going to work. Again, one of the last things you want to do is, put this thing together and then find out that something you left unplugged, right? Or it's just not working and now we still got to dig in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my battery that I have out. I'm going to plug it in there. And then I'm going to carefully just flip this thing over and hold it. And we're going to power it on to see, does this thing still go into emergency mode? Hopefully. It does not. It is all good and working. So switch warning, there we go. Everything up and booting. We know that this radio is now good to go. So last thing to do, be careful again with everything. Set it back in that little black case there. We're going to go ahead and take this battery off. And now we can go ahead and start putting things back together. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to put these 4 pieces back, or the 4 screws back in. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now we've got this 4th screw in. Get it final seated. The last 2 screws secure the top here again. So we're just going to go ahead and make sure that the flap is on the side for the USB. And it just literally sits, whoops, right here. Just goes right over there. And then you just drop in your 2 screws and we're good to go. This radio will be repaired. 1 and 2. There we go. And final check, we're going to go ahead and plug that same battery back in. And we are good to go. So there you go. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to Radiomaster, rc.com, or email us at support@radiomasterrc.com, or obviously you can find us at Quad Standard Labs, the official partner for customer support and repairs here in the U.S. Thanks for watching.